So we got pretty good representation here. We've got NBA, we've got high school, we've got college and different conferences all over the country. Little background. So Coach Chatman kind of gave me the inspiration for this. And, he and I have been talking quite a bit because he's out here on the West Coast, and thought, we have a ton of content, right? And everybody's pumping out content, but we really don't get, that much connection. And what I kind of wanted, and I think was part of the inspiration, is getting some of those conversations going that you have like in the hallways at conferences, right? Where you really learn stuff, like where you really hash out like, hey man, this is what we're planning on doing, or this is what we're going to do, or this worked well for us. So just kind of getting a few conversations like that going so we can actually connect in this craziness that we're in now, and share some ideas relative to men's basketball. So I'll just kind of throw some questions out there, and I might pick on one person to start, and then we can just kind of go. And if anybody who wants to chime in on it, go ahead. So I guess I'm going to start with this, and I'll have Coach Chatman start. What do you have your athletes doing these days? I know they're all at home, but like, what have you sent them, and how have you engaged with them, amidst all this?
Yeah, so I mean, per the Pac-12 rules, I'm not really allowed to check in on the guys. I can just suggest stuff. So what I've done is I've sent them programs through Coach Me Plus, a lot of bodyweight circuits, a lot of isometric and eccentric things, a lot of stuff like tissue tendon health, trying to get them moving better. I said we just finished playing for 4 months, so like they could use a little break. So I'm just easing them back into it slowly and not trying to go do too much too fast.
Okay. Erik, why don't you, because you have a unique situation in the NBA. What are you guys doing right now for your guys?
Yeah, so right now, the NBA has granted us the ability to work with specific medical cases in the facility. And so we're able to have a few of our guys come in, each day. And so it just happens to be that the guys that are coming in, the majority of those guys, I'm responsible for their kind of overseeing their programming and their care, at least on the performance end. So I'm going in pretty regularly, pretty much Monday through Saturday right now, which, again, I'm very fortunate that I'm grateful for that, because it obviously keeps me with some semblance of normalcy, which I don't think is normal right now for most people. But and the other thing is we're trying to hold on to a season that hasn't been canceled yet at this point. So for the remainder of our roster, we've tried to outfit them with some equipment. And so we kind of ordered a bunch of stuff early on, and that equipment has arrived at this point. And then we're just providing, offsite programs to guys, and just like anybody else, trying to find ways to engage with them and communicate with them, and, give them as much direction as possible among that. So we like created an Instagram account. It's a private account where we're putting content on there, as needed. So that's kind of one thing we're trying to do, is just push content when it's necessary. So send guys programs on the day, be purposeful about what we're asking about when they're, with their training and kind of how things are going, have them send videos, stuff like that. So we're not as constrained to the rules as I'm used to, because like I said, I came from college as well. So it's kind of like, let's find a way to get this done. And so that's kind of what we've been trying to do.
Awesome. Yeah, you do have a little bit more leeway than I think a lot of the coaches on here. That's good. Has anybody done anything? Feel free to just jump right in. Has anybody done anything that outside of just physical training, like anything from an emotional well-being, a psychological, nutritional standpoint, in addition to the physical workouts?
Yeah. So for my situation, obviously high school, we don't have the same regulations that NCAA does. And so for us, we've been sending out a bunch of content on our Facebook page to the sport coaches as well. And then I've been hosting some live Zoom workouts just in my apartment that anybody can do with some of the athletic teams as well. But so I sent out kind of like a daily nutritional checklist for the guys to kind of check off, keep score. It's like a just easy 10-question thing. And they kind of score themselves. I tell them, the goal is to get a 7 out of 10 every day. And then for each question, I kind of gave a few tips of how they can improve that score. And it's easy things. I mean, just like, did you get 2 servings of vegetables, 2 servings of fruit? Did you sleep 8 hours? Just stuff like that to kind of try to hold them a little bit accountable during this time. And I think it's good for them because, a lot of it is up to themselves to kind of, take care of themselves and grow up. It's a little bit of a maturing process right now that we're in. And so we got some decent feedback. We're doing it for the 3rd week now, and they've seemed to, improve a little bit so far. And so hopefully we can kind of continue doing that.
So you feel like you've had pretty good compliance then?
Yeah, I think for the most part, I think, when they're home, I think they can control a lot more than they do when they're at school. I mean, we're, I don't know if you guys know much about Montverde. We do have a boarding population. And so all of our basketball guys are boarding students. And, they always complain about the food and whatnot and don't eat very well on campus. So now that they're home, I'm kind of been chiming in on them like, look, you guys have no excuse now. You tell me how good the food is back home. Hopefully you guys are eating a lot better than you do when you're here. And so they've kind of, bought into that more, and they kind of see the importance of it as well. And so they've been bought in a little bit more for that now.
Now, I'm guessing like Coach Schmidt, for your guys, obviously they're professionals and they're getting paid. I'm guessing compliance has been, and you guys might just jump right back into the season. How do they check in with you quite a bit from home? The guys you've gotten equipment for, asking questions on the daily and things like that.
Yeah, I try to make sure I check in with guys every day. Again, we have a pretty decently big team too. So we've divvied up our roster. I mean, it's one team. So, but we've divvied up, those 15 guys into maybe smaller chunks for each one of us to be directly responsible for. So I have a small group of those guys that I'm checking in with daily. And one of the things that we try to do early on is just set their schedule to create some normalcy for them as well, because I think that was one of the challenges is guys are waking up at 3:00 in the afternoon early on when we first started. So now it's like, okay, try to schedule their workouts at 10:00 and roll with that. But I mean, to be honest, I'm not even that worried about the physical side that I'm responsible for. I'm worried about the game. So the fact that the guys are not being able to get in the gym right now is probably my biggest fear for the future for us, because if we are going to try to salvage this season, we're going to have to get, some of that specific load is definitely going to be detrained at this point. So we're going to have to figure out a way to ramp that up appropriately when guys do get back.
Yeah, I got to imagine, if they do decide to have it, there's probably going to be some sort of like 2-week interlude before a game start or something like that, just for that very purpose.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Yeah.
Hey, Rudy.
Yeah.
So since you kind of asked, I'd like to ask everyone who's on here just how they're handling it. One concern that I've had, and I would say we, with Northwestern, is just now the athletes are in a position where they're dealing with their classes being online and adjusting to that and having all this time already in front of the computer. And then every other facet of their college experience is also coming at them electronically, right? So now they're dealing with academic support coming at them electronically. They're dealing with coaching staffs coming at them electronically, dealing with sports medicine, dealing with nutrition, dealing with us. So there very much is kind of that, paralysis from, me and you were just talking about that, just how much time we're spending in front of a computer and how that's draining and stuff like that. So just interested to hear some thoughts if anyone else had them on, how are you managing that balance between staying on top of the kids, but also giving them enough space where they don't just tune you out.
Yeah. Coach Davis, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll touch on that a little bit. I guess everyone's situation is a little unique. We're going to be, we've only got, 5 guys returning. One's probably going to get drafted. So kind of echoing what Coach Chatman said, not overly concerned with, them being on a strict regimen at this point. As my whole take is that, and I use Bridge, so I just kind of give them workouts as a playlist. So, if you've got time that day, get out, do something, still try and stay in touch with the guys, try and call or FaceTime them every a couple days. Some guys will call me. Really just kind of have a moving target with that. But trying not, at this point, I'm not really panicking on as far as where they're at physically. I think for me, the physical part is just to kind of keep them in a routine and give them some sanity from maybe being locked up indoors or not having things to do. So for me, the physical part's a little bit more of the mental health part at this point. But really like the idea of, also challenging the guys as far as what they're doing for their recovery and nutrition and things of that nature. So I thought that was a good suggestion as well. But at this point, I'm hopeful we'll be back in June at some point. And with having 5 seniors that are gone and, only 5 returners, it's not overly pressing at this point for me. So just trying to stay in touch and give them stuff that hopefully they'll do and, just ride it out and see where we're at. I mean, these guys put in so much work throughout the season that, a little bit of time, a little bit of downtime, as long as we're not stretching it into, 2 or 3 months, we should be okay. So.
Agreed. Totally agreed. Coach Maxwell, where are you at in all this?
So from our mental health standpoint, our sports psychologists, we are sending it out to all of our athletes, all 650 athletes, a 4-question response, basically asking, anxiety, are you feeling depression? Just the big markers, trying to find those things out. And then if there's something's happening with that, then they're going to, deal with that. And that's from the medical side. It's not shared with coaches. It's not shared with strength coaches. That's more with just our team physicians and our sports psychologists. Then from the strength side, basically we've just put in a ton of general strength routines, and we create a booklet. It's got all our video links to all the exercises that we have, the routines, and we sent that out. We put one for our playground equipment. We put one for body weight. We put one in case they have some dumbbells or if they have a barbell, and then if they have a band. So we just went with that, and then we put in some, a little bit of high intensity days where they would go out and do some jumps, some sprints outside, and we just called it that. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm. So that questionnaire that goes out, that wellness questionnaire, is that something that you've is that populated through something like Bridge, like what Damon was mentioning?
All of our stuff is from that standpoint. We use Conduct just for questionnaires. That's all we use Conduct for. Then that comes back in and gets populated into Tableau, which is then has different settings based upon whatever that, whoever gets that accessibility to it.
So for you guys that don't know, Coach Maxwell at Iowa, they have every toy and tool that exists at the University of Iowa right now.
I don't know about that. Obviously, hell, I can't even get on a Google meeting, so it's obviously not me.
So I want to echo what Coach Davis was saying, and I think he touched on it. Everybody was scrambling to pump out all these workouts to their players, and I think what got lost immediately with some people, with some coaches, obviously not the ones on this call, but was the other side of the spectrum, the emotional and psychological well-being. I mean, for basketball, which is what we're talking about, most of them just got off a season, right? And so, I think this break was probably, we didn't want it to come this way, but it's probably what a lot of them could have used. And I think giving them some space and using the opportunity to address nutrition, mental health, and all those other areas of the organism and the athlete, I think this was a great opportunity for that, for those who have taken advantage of it. But that being said, let's say you do get your guys back, and I know, Erik, you're in a different position because you're waiting to start a season again. But let's say for you college guys, you guys get you guys back in, let's say, June, which I think everybody kind of has that in mind, a June 1st date. What do you have planned for them? Let's start with Coach Chatman. What do you have planned for like your new guys, your freshmen, your younger guys?
Yeah, I mean, for the new guys, just come in and see what they can do. I always like to start off evaluating and see what I'm working with. And then from there, it's just teaching them movements and really trying to build a work capacity. I think that's one of the early things you'll see with freshmen, especially what I'm saying, what we get here at Stanford, our guys going to need to really get under some load and learn how to move and really, really just teach them how to work, so whether it's just master the basic movement patterns of squatting, lunging, and hinging, and then we'll kind of progress from there or regress where we need to go. So.
Mm-hmm. So, Coach, since you're in a different position, I want you to chime in. Like, let's say you get your guys back and you do have like 2 weeks to get them prepared to play games again. What's your general game plan?
Number one, I think we really have to look at their court loads and monitor that pretty closely. I think we have a lot of objective information that we're definitely going to have to hang our hats on at some point when our guys do return. So we do have a pretty extensive suite of like tests that we'll throw at the guys in many different domains, whether that's isolated muscle testing, integrated, movement pattern stuff, general strength testing, force plate work. Obviously, we have a lot of information on their practice loads and their game loads. And we have a sports scientist who supports us in kind of, progressing guys appropriately, especially like our return to play guys. So we had a conversation where it's generally like we're just going to treat everyone like it's a return to play, like a return to play situation where the way that we're communicating what they're able to do and having our coaches support that on court and ramping that up as appropriately as possible within the constrained times that we do have, whatever that ends up being, is going to be probably the utmost importance for us. But again, fortunately, we do have a few plans in place right now as to like, okay, if this is the case, if we have 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, then kind of here's what our general take is going to be. So we're working on that right now. And I think trying to be proactive with that and just really being, strict about what those court loads are going to look like and ramping guys up is going to be really important. And then trying to make suggestions about, minutes for guys as they return. And that might depend on the type of player, that we're dealing with. But again, who knows? Because it's probably going to go into a playoff situation. But either way, I think the overarching thing is treat everybody like it's a return to play and just really, hang your hat on the objectives that you've collected beforehand and use those, as much as you can in the process.
Yeah, right on. Coach Melton, what's your general game plan if you get your guys back, let's say June 1st?
We are going to start with kind of our normal regression stuff that we do in June when we get our vets back and we're trying to ease them back in the system and trying to assess our new guys. And, it's a lot like you guys. I'm going to be reactive to the coach's decision. Based off of the year we just came off of, the fly in the ointment is going to be practice loads and extra shooting and individuals that are volundatory, stuff like that. So we're going to kind of minimally effective dose them, see what they can stand. We're going to crawl a lot, complex a lot, kettlebell carry a lot, just kind of really regressed kind of classic GPP stuff and just get into some good, human movement patterns, and probably won't load them until July significantly.
Excellent. Damon, how about you? What's your plan if you get them back June 1st?
I would, I think the biggest thing is communicating with the coaches. And I've got a head coach who I think already knows this, but I think the biggest thing for me would be communicating with the coaches, that we're not trying to make up for lost time, hopefully, and obviously just being sensible about our progression back onto the court. From the strength conditioning standpoint, I just go back to my base work of what I would typically do middle of May if we were coming back. I'd start probably with some circuits, work capacity, just try and get them back in some general shape before moving into some higher volume strength work, some strength endurance work, and just trying to ultimately look at the calendar and see how much time we have. And, if we get back in June, we'd probably only have 8 weeks versus 10 to 12, which is normally what we have. So just making the adjustments on that. And then, hopefully, fall and everything, we're back on a normal routine for getting ready for preseason. So yeah, nothing else. I would be curious to know how many, I guess, collect any type of training load through technology via, whether it be kinetic energy or GPS or heart rate or any of that. Because I heard obviously Coach Schmidt talk about training loads and return to play. I didn't know how many people are using that and how many people have data to kind of fall back upon. Just kind of curious in that regard.
Yeah, go ahead and jump in if you're using that.
We have Connects on here. It's a new system for me, so I'm still learning it. But it's been helpful this year as far as just managing guys' loads. But I will be using it in the future as well as I get better and better with it.
Coach Schmidt, do you what if you can share what do you guys use technology-wise?
You talking about to monitor core loads?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right now we're using Catapult, but we are switching over to Connexon in the next month or so, this summer. But right now it's Catapult, and then in game we get the second spectrum data that is kind of outfitted in each arena. So you're not allowed to use any form of monitoring for the games, but we do get some information from the arena through second spectrum.
Is that a collective bargaining type of thing that you can't?
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I haven't asked that question, but
yeah,
I'm sure there's some rule there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Coach Maxwell, what do you guys use for monitoring core load?
We use Connexon. So we have all data from our practices and our games, our home games. So we didn't get it on the road. From that standpoint, when we get back, that'll be the key thing that I will look at, because I know a few of our assistants get like gung ho, not necessarily our head coach, but they're like, oh, we got to make up for lost ground. So that would be the biggest thing. So I partner with the athletic trainer, and we'll say, all right, based upon normal 1 hour individual sessions, this is what our load was. We're coming back. The thing that's going to be difficult is we got 3 guys who do everything, who are like nonstop training right now. So the season was over, and from our guy who's from Luca Garza, he's immediately like, Coach, send me workouts. I mean, so he had workouts that weekend. He's training all the time. I've got another guy. It's one of our guards. He's training all the time. And then another one of our guards is training our small forward. He's training all the time. So with 3 of our starters, it's a good problem. We're going to have 5 new guys coming in, but only 1 or 2 of those guys will play. So I'll have 3 different workouts when we get going. So I'll have freshmen on a workout, and I'll have most of our guys, and I'll have our 3 like gung-ho guys, and I'll just move them forward because I don't need to hold them back.
So we have Catapult, but I'm interested in seeing if the NCAA is going to come out with any, they already had the return to play protocols that they put out. And I'm really interested to see if they're going to really dictate anything from a time standpoint, from, really restricting those times early on or anything like that. And obviously, there's always extra work and voluntary work that is tacked onto those times, but I'm kind of waiting to see how that goes. And then I'm interested to see if there's going to be any type of schedule change. I know Mike at Stanford's also on the quarter system. Normally for the quarter system, you're gone August through September, like middle of September, right? So those 6 weeks. So where a lot of schools will still be there prepping for that preseason, what we would normally get on the front end of the quarter system isn't there now, obviously. So just from a health and safety standpoint, I'm interested to see if there's going to be any type of change from that standpoint.
So, hey, what are you guys doing in regards to, are you handling any supplementation with your student athletes or your athletes during this stage, or how are you addressing your nutrition needs during this stage? Anybody jump in. Go ahead, Coach Chatman. We'll start there. Then we'll go to Charlie. All right.
All my guys have different situations, so it's kind of like seeing what they have access to and trying to get them when we can. We have a couple guys still on campus because we have so many international guys, so it's much easier for those guys than it is for guys who are away. But just trying to really at this point just advise them to eat the right things. I spent the better part of last year trying to get them to eat, period. So fighting that battle and trying to get them to eat the right things. So hopefully some progress, and not only mom's cooking, like Taran said, like it'll be better.
Yeah, I would say for my situation, we've kind of just been trying to broad stroke it, sending them some general information. But like Coach Chatman said, the main thing for me is just getting them to eat. I mean, I know I would have every time the guys come in the weight room, I ask them like, "Oh, what'd you have for lunch today? What'd you eat for breakfast?" And I can't tell you how many times one of the kids, one of our sophomores, he's like, "Oh, I had a chicken nugget today." It's like, it's 4:00 in the afternoon and all you've eaten is a chicken nugget. Like, how do you expect you have practice after this as well? And so it's just like getting them to eat, period, I think is tough. And then also a problem we've had with nutrition is this Game Changer documentary on Netflix is making a lot of our athletes go vegetarian/vegan, and they're all stuck on that. And I've had troubles with that because I kind of handle the nutrition aspect at our school because we don't have a sports nutritionist at all. And so I've gotten in many long talks and / arguments with our guys about them going vegetarian because of this documentary. I don't know if you guys have had anything like that, but.
Has anybody else seen that documentary? What's it called?
I haven't seen it, but I had an athlete who was pretty gung-ho on it, and he didn't go completely vegan, but he definitely didn't eat much red meat and would eat chicken and fish and things like that. But I don't know. It seems like a lot of misinformation from what I've heard, but I haven't watched it. But I've got some time. He actually texted me the other day. He was a senior last year, our center Austin Wiley, and he was like, "Well, you got time now. You got to watch Game Changers." I'm like, "Okay, I'll try and watch it." So maybe we'll see. Maybe you got to watch it just to know what you're arguing against.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I was going to say, I think one of the interesting things is for a lot of times we're trying to convince our kids to eat, fruits and vegetables and things like that. So I think if you can find that balance and then, obviously have those conversations where you can get them to stay kind of on the Game Changer diet, but maybe add some of those lean proteins back in. And we've actually had something similar where a lot of the kids are staying with either just like eggs or fish and stuff like that. But I mean, if I had a lot of athletes who are just eating vegetables and eggs and fish, like I'd be pretty happy about that, right? So it's an interesting thing that depending on how you look at it, it could actually be beneficial. So
Yeah.
Go ahead, Taran. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, one of the main guy, so we had our top, he's the number one recruit this year, Cade Cunningham. He's going, and he was like the main one who kind of started it. And so he's the best player on our team and went gung-ho about it. But he cut out all protein, was just going veggies. And he's a boarding student. And our cafeteria, it's good cafeteria as far as high school goes. I think it's very good. But there's 0% chance that he's getting any more than maybe 40 grams of protein a day eating the veggies and stuff that our cap offers. And so that was my main thing. And he started having a bunch of, little nagging muscular injuries and stuff throughout the season. And I kind of had to sit down with him. I was like, look, I think a lot of this may be nutrition, be the cause of it. But he kind of bought in a little bit and started eating a little bit of meat a couple times a week, but he was pretty convinced and stuff. And so since he was doing it, then a couple of the other guys on the team started doing it. And I think we saw some weight loss in the guys as well. A lot of more weight loss in season than we normally see, which I think again contributed to that as well. But Yeah, eating more veggies is always a plus. But my big concern with them was just the very low intake of protein that they were getting throughout the day.
And then it falls back on you to educate them on why protein is good. So then your job just got harder. You hate to beat down on them, right? Because they're taking the initiative to educate themselves, right? By watching a Netflix documentary, even though when people watch those, then they're like up on high, preaching to everybody afterwards as if it was gospel. But, they're at least taking in information. It's always a strange relationship for me because you look at it and like 3/4 of the country is clinically obese, but yet you can't get these kids to eat. And you're like, I can't believe that I can't get you to eat. Everybody else is eating too much and I can't get you to eat. And so it seems like a strange problem to have. But I do like the point that Coach Schweigert, you made it, is it introduces them to vegetables and tubers and things like that and beans that they may not have had any access or may not have known about prior. If they go down that road, you wanted to maybe call up Bill Walton and ask it how it worked out for him to go, to go vegan when he did.
Like we had a lot of our guys watch that, and then a lot of people came out with the science behind it, the questioning what it was. And I took it like Mike did. I took it as a chance to get my guys to, like, hey, let's start just like getting one green thing in a day, like, can we do that? And then building from there. So I kind of liked it from that standpoint, but, it was easier to explain it away, but, we try to take an active approach in that, but it was a good thing for us. So, Erik, what do you?
Oh, go ahead, Erik.
So I was going to ask Erik, or what are all you guys? What's something that have you looked at any supplementation, like, especially as you get towards the end of the season, maybe like vitamin D supplementation, or looking at maybe adding more creatine to the guys? I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts on that, if that's all right.
Yeah, we have a couple. I mean, to be honest with you, we have a couple of my staff members that are really well versed with the nutrition side of things. Like, so I haven't dove too heavily into how they, I know kind of what their general approach is, but it is a case by case approach. But there are some kind of blanket supplementation that we do provide, vitamin D being one of them. We also look at like a vitamin C, and I can't think of the ingredient in it, but Resync is one of the supplements that we utilize that supports tendon health. Because obviously tendinopathies being such a prevalent pathology in our population. So we do provide guys with a supplement that has a number of different things that supports tendon health. And that supplement's called Resync. I tried to get it when I was in college, but it's way too expensive. So, I've only used it for a couple months here, but, other than that, the typical, we have kind of our general supplements of protein, and, we have UCAN and some other things that are on the table that guys can take post workout. But beyond that, it is just a case by case with our chef, dietitian, and our director of sports medicine, who's very well versed in nutrition, that I couldn't speak on. So I don't know if that helps at all, but yeah, that's kind of our general approach.
Okay. Anyone else want to hop in there from a supplement standpoint?
Well, I would just say, Coach Schmidt, I think one thing that we do, I actually got this from a USA track and field coach that uses our facility. We use Knox gelatin and mix that with pineapple and tart cherry juice for our guys as for tendon health and stuff. Because the Knox gelatin is pretty much pure collagen, but much cheaper than most collagen supplements. And so we've done that with some tart cherry juice and pineapple juice to kind of help with the flavor and to get some vitamin C in there as well. And so that's something that hopefully next year we can start implementing with kind of more of our teams, but we use that with our guys. And they've seemed to enjoy it. And we did have, we had very minimal injuries and very minimal tendon issues and stuff this year. And so, I don't know if that was a direct effect of that, but I think it definitely helps.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I know we tried to provide those supplements about an hour prior to when we do our kind of isometric tendon, kind of our tendon protocols that we utilize. I don't know if there's some magical formula regarding that time frame, but I do think there is some evidence to support that that's a generally a useful time frame to allow some of the collagen and vitamin C to take action in the specific areas that we're trying to buffer. So, but that's really cool.
What was that time frame, Coach?
1 hour before
before
we do our tendon load. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so our nutrition, all of our nutrition stuff falls under our medical side. And that's a couple of the things that we've done as well. So we also use the Knox gelatin. We'll use the tart cherry juice. And then we'll actually, our medical side will do lab work. And then based on the lab work, they'll get vitamin D levels and prescribe vitamin D based off of that. So obviously within the basketball setting with African-American populations, lack of sunlight, winter, et cetera, those vitamin D levels can drop pretty low. And so we try to just keep an eye on that and work it accordingly.
Any particular brand of tart cherry juice or vitamin D?
I think the vitamin D is just the Nature Made gummies. We just made sure is NSF, right? The certified for quality one. And then we've used a couple different tart cherry juices. It kind of depends on how much they can get in stock, because we actually use that with all of our athletes. So there's a couple different ones. We've used the cherry juice concentrate, which is like basically a syrup. I actually have one on my counter. If you want me to go run and grab it, I could go double check. I want to say it might be like Concord Farms, maybe. And then we've used some of the other like ready to drinks too, like Cherish and Cherry Bundy and stuff like that. So.
Okay. Anybody else using anything like that in their programs?
Yeah, we'll do a lot of all the above. We'll do some of the collagen. Our dietitian will make up like Jell-O shots type collagen for the guys and put them in the fridge. We'll do multivitamins, pre-lifting, some vitamin D. And I'd be curious to know what dosage other people are using for vitamin D, because I've seen a pretty broad spectrum of dosages. I think we do a fairly low dose, maybe around 2,000 milligrams, but I've seen suggestions of 10,000 a day for people who are low. I've seen 20,000 every 3 days. Just be curious on that regard. Intra-workout, we try and get our guys to drink Gatorade powder with Bipro, just whey protein, to sip on during their lift, and then obviously provide something post lift as well. I'm just a big routine guy. Try and get guys in the routine of after practice, whether it's a milk or a Gatorade, recovery shake or tart cherry juice, whatever it is. And then we also do those B12 shots. And then I have guys who will do beetroot juice pregame, like hour before the game, for basically energy or oxygen efficiency. I've had about half a dozen guys that use that regularly before every game. So that's kind of our protocol. But I'd be curious about some of the other levels of vitamin D supplementation, because I think that's something we haven't been very proactive on from a medical standpoint. Is, in my opinion, every kind of like what Mike said, I think every basketball guy, player should be screened for, blood work to see if they're deficient, because I think we've just had too many guys that we've found out after the fact, and it's like retroactive that you give them vitamin D. It's like, well, probably should be something we do day one just to see who's got low levels to begin with. So that's kind of what we do.
Has anybody got any levels or any dosage recommendations for vitamin D? Or just want to kind of say what you guys use?
Hey, Damon, we started off with 15,000 units for the week.
That sounds within range of what some of the things I've heard.
That's without testing. That was just a blanket. We went with that.
Yeah.
We plan to implement testing this next year.
Yeah, I think everybody should. I don't know if we're doing it now, but I think we are.
I mean, I know Landon will go himself personally. He'll go 5,000 units. He'll go to 25,000, 30,000 units a week.
Yeah, I've taken 10,000 a day, for 7 days a week, so 70,000 a week. So I think the medical community just gets very nervous because obviously vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin, and they think you're gonna OD kids on it or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We have a very conservative medical staff, so we've had the same team doctor for I believe 30 years. So very, very old school, great person, great bedside manner, but
Well, Erik, do you have a recommendation dosage wise that you guys use in the NBA?
Yeah, honestly, it's case by case. So I know we do testing, so there's kind of some specifics that are put in place for that. How often we do that, I don't know. To be honest with you, some of this stuff's kind of new to me, so I'd have to follow up on that. But because I don't know how relevant testing becomes after a certain period of time. So I do think it's 2,000 a day. I do think that's what we're using, but I'd have to double check.
Okay.
I know the company we use Thorne, so I know we're using Thorne research for vitamin D. And then the other thing we have some sleep supplement too. I think that was the one I missed. Maybe is we give guys a packet when they leave for the day and provide some sleep supplements. There's a drink that we give them called Som Sleep, which I think has some magnesium and some other theanine and some other things in it. And then we provide some vitamins for them too. So I know that's been a focus for us for the last couple of years, trying to improve sleep quality, which I know is a big one probably for everybody. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Like, does that Som Sleep, is that just SOM sleep?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that like the old school zinc magnesium, like ZMA stack?
Yeah, it is. It's got a number of different things in it. I know it does have a proprietary blend on there, but I do believe our director of sports medicine knows what that blend is. So he recommends it, but so I don't know if that information's available as to like what the quantities of certain things are, but it tastes really good. Guys like it, and placebo, whatever, if it helps them relax, then that's a win.
Yeah, I agree. I would say everybody would agree with that. Sleep quality and get them to consistently sleep at a high level at a nightly basis is probably as good as anything from a recovery standpoint. I mean, we know it just from ourselves. You take some Calm or you take a ZMA. If you can get through the dreams at night, you know what I mean. You can get through the crazy dreams. You usually wake up feeling pretty good. Last thing. Just real quick touch on this, and I know based on the composition of this particular panel, a lot of you guys probably don't need it, but I'd like to hear, and Charlie, you can start. When you first got to your school, let's say, or if you were going to go to another school, and what is your way to get buy-in? Like your most effective way to get your guys to buy in? Like I said, I know a lot of you guys don't need that at this point where you're at in your careers. But for people who are going to see this later, what have you used to really help you get buy-in from your guys?
For me, I try to be very curious early on. I'm always curious about their lives, but be curious really early on and ask a lot of questions and try to kind of get to know them, as much as possible, both as a person and obviously as a player. And then, gosh, I think just in general, I think over time, just being consistent shows up pretty as something that I think supports building relationship. I think a lot of people aren't consistent. So consistent in your behaviors, your approach, your professionalism, and those types of things. I think over time that that helps. And then, at some point I always like to bring up the question as to, who the most influential coach for that individual is, or who that person is and what makes them so influential. And that's usually something that gives me some understanding of how to support them, from a coach to player standpoint, and just try to take some information from that too. But it's just, for me, it's a relationship, right? It's just building the relationship as, whatever's authentic to you and showing up every day and just being consistent with stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I got curious, consistent, and then who is most influential. Could be coach or in their life. I totally agree with what you're saying. I mean, and that's all kind of under the umbrella of relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
Taran, what do you got? You're pretty new to your gig too.
Yeah. So, for those of you that don't know me, I mean, I'm a 5'6" white kid from, just south of Atlanta, a little suburb. So it is, for me working with our basketball team, all of our shortest starter was 6'7" this year. And so, they look at me and they're like, what does this guy know about basketball? And so for me, I think it's just all about being, genuine and authentic with the kids. I think at our school, we're fortunate to have some really high-profile high school basketball kids. I mean, we had 3 McDonald's All-Americans this year. And so they get a lot of chatter, a lot of media press, a lot of people in their ears trying to be connected to these kids. A lot of people, I feel like, trying to be fake to them because they just kind of want to go along for the ride. And so from my standpoint, I always going to be honest with them up front and be genuine with them. I'm not going to be there to be their buddy at all and to tell them what they want to hear. I'm going to tell them what they need to hear. And so I think they respect that a lot because they do get a lot of people chiming in all the time to them to try to connect with them. But, when they have somebody that's going to be honest with them and really push them and, really be there for them regardless, I think they respect a lot. And, their trust doesn't come easy, but it's once they do trust you, then, they'll go to war for you. And I think that's been a big part of it with our guys is because we have, and this is my first year there, but every year we usually have 6 or 7 new players coming in to join the team. A lot of them are, they just come from maybe their senior year. It's kind of rare for us to have a 4-year player. And so it is almost a new slate every year. And so that first impression, the first couple of weeks is big for us. And so we really just try to hit the ground running and build up as much as we can and then, challenge them. They don't get challenged too often by people. And so we try to challenge them physically, mentally in the weight room as much as we can.
I think we could do an entire podcast about what it's like to be at a destination high school like that. Like, I don't even know that world.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I didn't really get the full scope of it until we were hosting a big preseason tournament at our school. And, there was a couple other nationally ranked teams there. And one of the other teams is coming off the bus. I was working the box office at the time. And they see 2 of our players, Scotty Barnes and Cade Cunningham, 2 of the top 5 recruits. And the other team, who was a nationally ranked team, is like freaking out, asking to take pictures with players on our team when we play them later on that evening. It's like, and I didn't really get, I didn't understand kind of how big of celebrities these guys kind of are in their own right in high school basketball until that moment. And so it's pretty wild to be around some, traveling with them and seeing how little kids react to seeing, a big high school basketball player. It is really, really cool. And so it's definitely a different world.
I know for me personally, my opinion isn't popular on this. I know like culture and buy-in and building buy-in has been almost like a buzz term. It's been the most popular thing probably for the last 1.5 years, 2 years. And my mind always I get a bit flummoxed by it because I'm like, if you've been coaching for a while, like, I don't know how you don't know what that looks like because it's not a new formula. You've had to build relationships. Now, maybe there's better ways than others, but you've been building relationships since the day you started coaching. And I think everybody kind of gets it. But again, maybe it's not something that comes easy to everybody. So, it's clearly worth talking about because enough people have been talking about it the last couple of years and there's been books written about it and whatnot. But it's always seemed a bit curious that it's been such a topic that has vexed people because I think I don't know how you coach without being a relationship builder and a teacher. Does anybody else have anything they want to say along those lines in terms of culture and building it within? Like Damon, you got anything on that?
No, I think everyone hit all the main points. I think it's just, we're around our guys so much, especially when they first step on campus, middle of May, early June, whatever it may be, that, I think it's about just being who you are, being honest. Those relationships take time. I think when you know your head coach and your head coach may recruits a certain type of player, I think that kind of helps too. And we're probably one of the last people to kind of form a relationship, because a lot of the assistants obviously are, dealing with them through the whole recruiting process, and we meet them obviously when they come on campus and yada yada yada. But I think the way our off season is set up, like, we spend as much time, if not more time, with them than the assistants, especially in July when they're out on the road recruiting and things of that nature. So pretty much what everyone else just said. It's just be yourself and be honest. And I think as long as you're genuine and you're showing them that your job is to help them in their best interest, I mean, I think everything else kind of takes care of itself.
Agreed. Coach Chatman, I'll let you finish up this section, because you actually came from the South out to Stanford, and I've been up there to visit him, and Coach Chatman has integrated himself seamlessly in Stanford, which, if you haven't been there, is a very erudite culture on that campus, and Coach Chatman has done an awesome job. So, Coach, why don't you jump in and say some of the things that you did in order to ingrain yourself into that team so efficiently?
When I first got here, I made sure I met with every guy for about 8 minutes. I just kind of let them talk to me, and I wanted to hear where they were. Then I told them about myself and kind of how I did things, and told them I wasn't going to change a ton, but the one thing that they're going to get from me is what everybody's been saying. I was going to be honest, consistent, and they always knew I'm always going to be the same, and I'm going to give them what they need. And I really just start spending time with the guys. So when they're shooting around, I'm in the gym. When they're in the locker room, hang out in the locker room, just really getting them to be comfortable around me. And, just really trying to be kind of like a big brother influence on them. Like, if you need something, I'm always here. I'm always available. There's no dumb questions. There's nothing that you can't say or can't ask me. I mean, and really just trying to create a spot for them where they can actually ultimately be vulnerable. Like, a lot of these guys have been preyed on since they were late, in middle school, early high school, because, they're so good and people are just kind of find a way to leech onto them. But just letting them be kids and letting them be real people and trying to help them develop as men is kind of how I've done it.
Agreed. Yeah. Well done. Well, guys, I want to be respectful of your time, and we're at about an hour now. So if nobody has anything else directly that they want to ask to the group, then I'll go ahead and wrap it up, and appreciate you guys giving me and everyone else an hour of your time this afternoon. Appreciate it. It was good seeing y'all.